hoodwink, swindle, bamboozle. Am I reading something for a 1930s private eye? At least he's paying me. Hello, people of the internet. Have you heard of QAnon? It's a scam, a swindle, a con. It's a three-card Monty. These folks are pulling the wool over your eyes, playing you for a sucker, hitting you with the old razzle-dazzle. And the man to tell you about it is here. From the Poker and Politics Twitter feed, it's the Exit Through the Grift Shop podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Exit Through the Grift Shop podcast. Today I wanted to talk about the Ruth Bader Ginsburg controversy that is roiling QAnon as we speak. Now, the reason why Ruth Bader Ginsburg being alive is controversial is because Q skated right up to the line of saying that she was dead without saying she was dead, and then letting QAnon run wild with the speculation and the belief that she was in fact dead. And there were the people that thought she was dead, there were the people that thought she was incapacitated, everyone thought there was an issue with her health. The hashtag Where's Ruth was a big thing in QAnon, and probably still is even now, because evidence never changes anyone's minds when it comes to QAnon. But anyways, we're going to start off here with basically what the timeline of the situation was. Q drop 2653 on January 6th began the Ruth Bader Ginsburg is dead saga. In it, Q went on a tirade about Ginsburg being a hard lib who supports all kinds of terrible things, is a bad person, blah, 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 the usual. And then he further stressed that she was under some sort of medical care that was unbeknownst to the public, that she was receiving care that we blue-pilled normies wouldn't know about, wouldn't be able to receive. Something illicit was going on with Ginsburg. It was an untoward kind of thing. From there, he went on to have a series of Q drops that reiterated this. There was a Bing search of Ginsburg information because Bing is the search engine of patriots and pornography, both of these things. Again, Q posts on 8chan, one of the biggest cesspools on the internet. They use Bing as the search engine. Implication works both ways. So that was what happened there. And then he further went on to highlight a news article that said that Ginsburg was missing cases before the Supreme Court for the first time in 25 years. And being all, oh, look at that. And went above and beyond to even bust out in Q drop 2670, busted out a mathematically impossible. Because that's one of the things Q does when Q is doing Q things. They got to bust out the mathematically impossible to really let you know that they're on to something. They got this pegged. Furthermore, Q went on in the very next Q drop, 2671, to game theory out what would happen if Trump nominated a woman to the Supreme Court. How this would blunt the Democrats' only tactic of stopping a Supreme Court nominee, and that is, of course, accusing them falsely of sexual harassment and sexual misconduct. You will remember that Neil Gorsuch had no such problem. McConnell nuked the filibuster, made it clear that a straight majority was all it was going to need to confirm Gorsuch. He answered some questions. We had a vote. Gorsuch got confirmed. Sailed through. No one remembers the controversial Gorsuch nomination. So, really, the Democrats only bust out the sexual assault card when there's evidence of sexual assault, when someone comes forward with a credible claim. Gorsuch got on the court with no problems. He was smooth sailing. But again, history, facts, logic, reason, we don't deal with these things when we are QAnon. We just scream and yell and say what we want to say. So, January 6th, Q comes out with, again, goes right up to the edge of saying Ginsburg is dead, does everything but say that she is dead, whips QAnon into a lather. Everywhere you look for the next month, it's just memes of Ginsburg being dead. Just, where's Ruth? Where's Ruth? When are they going to announce it? Ba ba ba, ba ba ba, ba ba ba. Then, finally, evidence starts trickling out that she's alive, which is incompatible with the she's dead narrative. And as the problem with believing that she is dead becomes more and more evident, Q decides to just burn everyone in QAnon by posting a Q drop 2735 on February 15th, reiterating what he said in the January 6th drop, and then saying, I never said she was dead. That was the Mockingbird media who put that word in my mouth. Bleh. And, of course, he's just totally punking everyone who follows him with this crap, because he's letting them all know, hey, everyone who got the implication of what I said and ran with it, idiots, I never said that, so blah. This is the game of QAnon, is that it's all implication. It's all a wink and a nudge. It's all just, doesn't this look bad? Isn't there something to this? It's all just holding your hand and guiding you along to whatever conclusion they want without presenting you actual evidence for that conclusion. And Q knows they were doing this. Q absolutely knows they were doing this. And they also know that no one in QAnon is ever going to say, hey, Q, you all but said she was dead. It's not cool that you pulled that stunt on me, bro. Because Q is an infallible god. So when Q pulls this move, everyone's like, oh, sorry, Q, our bad. We got carried away. It's our fault. And everyone grovels and simpers and bows because they are pathetic, worthless human beings with no self-esteem. And it's really just that cult mentality, that terrible mindset where the person in charge is the boss and they're right about everything, and when they're wrong, you're the one who screwed it up. They weren't wrong, which is just awful. It's a terrible way to conduct business. It's a terrible thing to be a part of when you're on the bottom of the food chain, as it were. So everyone screamed and yelled that she was dead. A QAnon supporter actually had took photos of Ginsburg at a funeral and posted them to let everyone know, hey, I was at a funeral. Ginsburg was there. She's alive. She was talking to people. She was up and about. She was as healthy as a very old lady would be healthy. So there you go, guys. And she was viciously attacked by QAnon for doing this. The photos were immediately discredited. Everyone was looking at them to prove they were photoshopped, that they were fake, that they were not real. It was all kinds of stuff like that. It was a relentless... And the best part about it is the woman remained a QAnon follower and supporter even after this. After being just absolutely viciously slandered and dragged through the mud by all of these people that were supposedly her brothers and sisters in arms up until this moment, she was still like, you know what? I took a little hit here. I'm still believing in Q. Totally buying everything Q's selling. Even though I just got exposed to the full-on wrath of the cult because I dared defy them, and I produced heretical documents of photographs of the evil Ginsburg alive and well, still buying into the satanic pedo ring, all that kind of stuff. Still in on all of it. And then more and more evidence kept trickling out that Ginsburg was alive, more public appearances, and also what's really kind of important here is Ginsburg returned to the Supreme Court and was hearing cases and was asking questions and was receiving answers. So now, for you to believe that she's dead or incapacitated, you have to believe that all 8 other justices on the Supreme Court are in on it. That Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, who were put on the Supreme Court by Trump, are somehow not going to expose her for being dead or incapacitated. Joe M. has done some incredible tap dancing on this, trying to figure out a way to justify and explain why Gorsuch and Kavanaugh are not bringing this up. But, so you would think that this would have tapered off, that this would have ended at this point. God, would you be wrong? Because Q, having freshly removed his hand from the car door that he had just slammed it on, this and told everyone, "Hey, I didn't say she was dead. I don't know what you guys are talking about," decided to gently place his hand back inside the car door and slam down the door on his hand a couple more times. Because he went back to the well in a Q drop 3195. My handwriting is terrible in my note taking, so if it's 93, I do apologize. But it'll be right there. What happened was there was a transcript of a Supreme Court case, because they don't allow video in the courtroom, but they do allow audio recording of the case that is presented in oral arguments to the Supreme Court. And in this oral argument transcript, there was a section of commentary by Ginsburg that was declared in the transcript as inaudible. It was something that was not understandable. And if you listened to the clip, it was a lawyer was finishing their statement, and Ginsburg jumped in like a word or two too early. So then Ginsburg stopped talking, let the lawyer finish, and then Ginsburg began her question. Neon Revolt, who has spent the last little while telling me that I'm a terrible person and a monster because I accused a QAnon supporter of posting an edited New York Times article when the New York Times article had actually been edited by the New York Times themselves. And I have repeatedly stated this and stated that I was tricked by the Times and it was their fault. Neon Revolt, that hard-hitting, fact-based journalist that is Neon Revolt, did a deep dive into this audio and proved that something was up, that something was faked, that this was like a Weekend in Bernie's like situation where Ginsburg, the audio didn't sync up right. There was some problem with it. There was something fishy. Something didn't pass the smell test, as they say. It was controversial, this thing with Ginsburg's audio. Now, if you look at the actual transcript, you'll see that there are many sections. I believe there were 6, where the closed captioning declared a section of the audio to be inaudible. And the section of audio that involving Ginsburg that was inaudible was, again, an incredibly small snippet. She asks a bunch of questions to both counsels in the oral arguments. And on top of that, there's a truckload more cases that have come out with truckloads more audio. You can listen to all of it. Go to SCOTUS blog or go to any governmental blogs for the Supreme Court and start looking for oral argument transcripts and oral argument recordings, and you will find it. And you will hear Ginsburg ask questions specific to the case. It could not be canned questions. This is a real thing that really happens. And so this was a ridiculously silly thing. It was a tiny snippet of audio that was completely unrepresentative of the vast body of audio recordings we have of Ginsburg on the Supreme Court bench addressing petitioners. Yet Q themselves decided that I'm gonna whip QAnon into a frenzy again. I'm gonna freak them all out by just dipping my toe in there and saying, "Hey guys, something's going on. Doesn't this audio sound weird? I mean, this is a thing you guys gotta look into." And what is the point? Because let's just say that if Q is telling the truth, and Q really believes this, then Q's just ginning up paranoia and conspiracy theories for no good reason. If disinformation is necessary, what's the disinformation? What's the trick? The deep state knows that Ginsburg is alive and well. They're not falling for it. They're not going to say, oh, Q's onto something. She's dying. Oh, no, we've been caught. So he can't be giving out quote-unquote disinformation about Ginsburg. And so he had to be being honest about her. And he was wrong, because he was always wrong. And again, he at the start he was wrong, and then he corrected himself to say, I didn't say I didn't say what I implied. I only said what I said. Everyone who got out over their skis, that's on them. It's not on me. I'm not responsible for what my dumb cult of lunatics say. I am just the guy that runs the cult. And then jumps right back in with this crazy audio non-controversy. And then recently, Ginsburg did a live show at Georgetown. She did a speech that was streamed. Then she was at the Justice Stevens funeral. And again, QAnon cannot accept that she's alive. And they started screaming and yelling that the footage of her at the funeral of Justice Stevens was a deep fake. Which is hilarious, because if you read anything from QAnon, they are obsessed with the idea that deep fakes are a lie, and that when horrible, controversial, terrible things come out on video, it'll be real. When the Hillary slices off a girl's face and wears the face and mocks the mutilated girl, when that video comes out, it'll be 100% true. It will be a real thing that really happened. It doesn't matter how much CGI can be proven. Doesn't matter how obviously not real it was. They're going to accept it as real. And that all the leftist media screaming about deepfakes is just trying to cover for the fact that the Hillary face slicing video is coming out and it's a true thing. But then we get a video of Ruth Bader Ginsburg at a funeral, and that's a deepfake. Deepfakes are whatever QAnon wants them to be. Whatever furthers their agenda is true. Whatever disproves their agenda is false. Now, what's really funny is that there is an actual schism in QAnon about Ruth Bader Ginsburg being alive and well or not. Favorite of the podcast and the Twitter feed, Rod Sneaky, has come out as a Ginsburg lifer. And this has led to quite a bit of consternation in his timeline, as the replies are not entirely approving of his line of reasoning on this issue. And I've just had a thing pop up on my screen, which I will get rid of now. What happens there is Rod Sneaky did his little thing, got yelled at a little bit, but there were some people that were totally backing him. There were people that were like, no, Rod, you're totally onto this. This Ginsburg is dead thing is stupid. It's hurtful. We don't need to be doing this. The video speaks for itself, blah, blah, blah. Then you go over to Joe M., other favorite of the podcast and the Twitter feed. You go to Joe M's Twitter, and he is completely all over the video of Ginsburg at the funeral being a deepfake. And his supporters are out of their minds, 100% backing his play that this is fraudulent, this is a deepfake, she's dead 100%. So I would love some big name QAnon supporter, like Praying Medic, pretty much, Educating Liberals, Dilly. I'd love any of these guys to just actually put a poll up on their site. Is Ruth Bader Ginsburg dead / incapacitated? Yes, no. And just see what the polling comes out to being. I wouldn't want to do it on Rod or Joe M's Twitter feeds, because they've kind of like staked ground out on this stuff. And I'm sure the other guys have made comments and snitty little like things, but someone who hasn't come out hard about the Stevens funeral being a deepfake or not a deepfake, I want them to actually run a poll and just let's get the pulse of QAnon. Let's find out how many of them actually are all in on Ginsburg being dead or incapacitated, and how many of them accept that she's alive. Because this is the thing that Rod Sneaky and also to some extent Q, this is the problem they're dealing with, is that you can't go 80% crazy. You just can't do it. You can't tell people that their enemies are a satanic cabal of baby-eating, treason-committing psychos, and then like pull back on the reins on anything, because once you've already gone that far, there's really no restraining what's going on. You can't say, guys, the totally psychotic and evidence-free madness that I'm spouting is cool, but you guys saying that JFK Jr. is alive or Ruth Bader Ginsburg is dead is not cool. And they're going to be like, why? How is it not cool? We are in agreement on 80% of the delusion. Why can't you come with us on the remaining 20% of the delusion? And that's the thing, is that you're debating grades of nuts at this point. You're debating how totally unmoored from reality are you. And to an outside observer, if you are actually having a passionate argument over Ruth Bader Ginsburg being alive or dead, you're both crazy. I mean, because it's a fact that she's alive. And the fact that you have to try to prove it to the other person, you would, if this was an actual engagement you had with a random stranger, you would just walk away from them. You would just be like, look, you are insane. I cannot engage you in a logical, coherent manner. So we're going to call it a day here. But the fact you're going to sit there and engage them further because they're part of QAnon and you're part of QAnon and you guys got to get on the same page, you're never going to get on the same page, because nuts people believe what nuts people want to believe because they're nuts. And that's the end result of this stuff, is that you're gonna have these schisms, you're gonna have these divisions, you're going to have these quote unquote controversies. And again, and I've always said this, Q does not wade into these controversies because Q knows their word has no weight. When Q said that JFK Jr. was dead, the JFK Jr. was alive, people didn't care. They just kept believing it. And Q, recently after the July 4th JFK Jr. thing didn't materialize, Q posted another Q drop saying that JFK Jr. was dead. It was really like pleading. It was like, guys, please, he's dead. Let it go. Stop thinking he's alive. You're making me look bad. And there are still JFK Jr. live people out there. They're just going to... He's just doubling down on the disinformation is necessary. He's just saying this because he's got to protect his buddy JFK Jr. We get you, Q. We know what you're really saying to us, bro. Boom, bro fist. Got you back, Q. No problem. JFK Jr. totally alive. And the thing is the JFK Jr. alive thing is a real fringe section of the movement. I think the Ruth Bader Ginsburg is dead movement is large. I think it is a majority of QAnon. So if he came out and he said she was alive, that would just drive a lot of people insane. It would enrage them that he sold them out. And by the same token, if he came out and said she was dead, then he's just driving people further and further into an indefensible argument because she's alive. She's alive and well. She's not in any physical problem, not suffering from any maladies except for being really old. So this is the unbelievably stupid stuff we're dealing with now in an unbelievably stupid world that we live in. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is alive is a controversial statement to make inside of QAnon, and it will remain so until she's actually dead. And then they'll be happy because they just hate liberals and wish that liberals would all die. Because they're miserable, terrible people who are stuck in an echo chamber, and it's very sad. And I pity them. So I'm out of gas now, so I'll catch you all in a little while.